innocent si utaandikwa hata kwa gazeti. Kama mwanamke anaona ako na mtu kama huyu anamtesa, mwezi mmoja afadhali atoke kwa hiyo marriage.
Atoke akienda wapi? Run when you can. Sasa yuko na miguu. Kimbia. Otherwise atakufunja miguu.
Na unampiga?
Sichampika, yeye ndiye anachipika. Yeye mwenyewe. Ulikuwa unakuja kuokoa maisha. Wewe ni ambulance.
Are you guys serious?
Do I look like I am smiling? Am I smiling, eh? Do you think that it is going to buy an open bottle?
Who told you I had intentions of buying such for my queen?
Very last warning. Don't you ever call my brother a fake millionaire. Kayonga mtu saizi.
Wachana na yeye. The fact remains that I have made 2 million and I am a 2 millionaire rich.
Wewe fuga mdomo. Makwapa wewe.
Kinyandui, what is your problem?
Don't talk to me.
Yani, you mean this classroom is now a bank? I'm missing something.
Achito, why can't you just tell the truth?
Because sometimes the truth is very painful.
Pata ulimi na mafikira kama sikiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 *815
Hey, my friend, ulimi ni kama msumari na mafikira ni kama nyundo. Hizo vitu mbili zikishikana, zinaweza jenga ama zinaweza bomoa. Haki na sita tafadhali. Hebu fikiria hiyo kitu nataka kuniambia kabla nishike hii simu. Kama unataka kunibomoa, toa hiyo simu kwa masikio. Unaona hiyo kitu ya red? Finya hiyo kitu ya red.
Kupata ulimi na mafikira, bonyeza *811 *815 *811 *815
Intentions of buying such for my queen.
Very last warning. Don't you ever call my brother a fake millionaire. Kayonga mtu saizi.
Wachana na yeye. The fact remains that I have made 2 million and I am a 2 millionaire rich.
Wewe fuga mdomo. Makwapa wewe.
Kinyandui, what is your problem?
Don't talk to me.
Yani, you mean this classroom is now a bank? I'm missing something.
Achito, why can't you just tell the truth?
Because sometimes the truth is very painful.
As the world gears up for the World Athletics Championships and Commonwealth Games, Athletics Kenya holds trials to get the nation's representatives at these global events this Friday and Saturday. Watch the trials live on KBC Channel 1 this Friday and Saturday. KBC, your true sports partner.
She must have known this before we did and went to take care of it.
I'm a princess of Green Hill. I'm not afraid of you. You're the one who betrayed us. You can't handle a little criticism?
You!
The J-Dragon fan.
But that was the weapon which, 70,000 years ago, resulted in the scattering of Master Mars' soul.
Indeed.
70,000 years, so long ago.
都是家乡。
Nikishuka chini, alikuwa chini kwa garini mwangu akiningojea. Na ameniambia maneno chungu nzima.
Ngoja, Kita liko hapa. Liko wapi?
Lakini hapa ndani hapa kama.
Mimi na wewe tukapa kila siku, wala kugusana tugusana, wala kusongeleana tusongeleane.
Msichana ajitambulisha mimi kwangu kwa yeye ni girlfriend wa bad.
Dingo, but that's obvious.
Obvious?
The world is living in another era of hyperinflation. From United States, Canada, Taiwan to South Africa, analysts are grappling with this question. Have we seen the worst yet in regard to the rising inflation the world over? Well, the question is this: when are we going to beat that corner? And when are we going to stabilize the global economy? Because it is teetering on the brink of collapse. And that is what analysts are warning if necessary measures are not taken. And of course, if the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is not contained, then we haven't seen the worst yet. Good morning, Africa. Good afternoon, Asia. And of course, good night, America. This is Base Check. We are live from Broadcasting House. My name is O'Brien Kimani. And of course, here in Kenya, we are racing towards the 9th of August this year, when we go to the general election, where we expected to elect a new set of leaders. How are we doing this? Remember, the political noise is rising every day, but we are helping sift through the noise and of course help make you understand how the situation is on the ground. Later on, we shall be discussing the cooperative movement here in Kenya. Is actually the biggest in Africa and one of the biggest in the world. But of course it is facing unique challenges, and of course there are opportunities to be exploited in all these challenges. I'll be talking to a team of experts who understand this industry very well. Our reporters are on the ground. They are tracking what is happening in the county near you. And remember, it's going to be a weekend of grueling man and machines. The Safari Rally is back, and it is kicking off today. We'll be going to various locations to see exactly the preparation that are underway. And of course, the Public Service Week is coming to a close today. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to lead in giving those awards to the awardees. Our team is also there at Kenyatta International Convention Center to give you an update. My name is O'Brien Kimani. At O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle. Let's keep talking. The big interview is coming up next. Is it okay? Well, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We are live from Broadcasting House, www.kbc.co.ke live stream. Of course, you can watch us through YouTube, and at O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our official Twitter handle. On the 2nd of July, the world is celebrating the International Cooperative Movement Day. This is a celebration that has been happening in the last 101 years. And so we want to track the performance of the cooperative movement, not only here in Kenya, but around the world, how it was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course, how members are coping with the rising cost of living. Has this impacted on contributions? And of course, the issues of governance. What are we doing as a country to streamline the management of cooperative movements here in Kenya, bearing in mind that we've had some challenges in the past, and of course, how they have been addressed, the lessons that we have learned, and how they can be applied going into the future. Well, Daniel Marube is the Chief Executive Officer of Cooperatives Alliance of Kenya. He's now joining us this morning to help us understand where is this movement, the challenges they're facing, the opportunities, and what the future holds for the cooperative movement here in Kenya. Thank you very much indeed, Marube, for finding time to be with us here.
Thank you very much indeed.
As we head to the 2nd of July, where the world is expected to celebrate the International Cooperatives Day, is there anything that we can look back to and say we are proud of these?
Thank you very much indeed for having me here this morning. Now, this year, the cooperatives all over the world we are celebrating the 100 years since we started celebrating the contributions of cooperatives in impacting individual members and the societies and the communities in which they live in. Now, when you look at it in this country, for example, there is no development that you can be to look around and you do not see the footprint of cooperatives in it. Since before, during the colonial period, the colonial masters started their own cooperatives, their dairy cooperatives in Lumbwa, to take care of their interests. But since independence in Kenya, for example, you could see that people were mobilized into cooperatives so that they could be able to buy land from the settlers to settle our people. Cooperatives has changed the lives of many people. Our footprints in cooperatives is seen not only in housing, that you will find out that almost every house owner has either taken a loan from the cooperative to buy land or to help him complete the house. So cooperatives, we have housed many Kenyans. Number two, we have helped a lot of people to own a land. We have supported our members to take their children to school. There's nobody else. If you go to any school, you will see the checks issued, payments from cooperatives. In agriculture, food security in this country, without cooperatives involving people to do food production and aggregating the agricultural products such as rice, we have the rice cooperatives, and now we are forming maize cooperative unions in the Rift Valley. You will see then that cooperatives have really changed the lives of people. Look at Barethram, which was the leading, Kenya was a leading producer of 65% of the world production of Barethram. Look at coffee, which is the main source of foreign exchange for this country, is from cooperatives. We have tea circles, which is really supporting the people in the rural areas. So when you look at it, in Nairobi, the big buildings, you see most of them are being owned by the cooperatives. So really, indeed, as the theme of this year states, that cooperatives build a better world is a theme that relates very well with us in Kenya, because every village you go, every place you go, every organizations you go, there is a cooperative footprint in it. And therefore, as Kenyans, we are joining the rest of the world to celebrate the impact, the transformation the cooperatives have brought in our individual life, in our communities as cooperators, and changing the world. Remember last year, we as cooperatives worldwide, we had a campaign of planting trees so that we can be able to protect the environment, we can protect the world in which we are in, because the world is ours. That's where we are. If we destroy the world, then it will not be a better place for us to live in.
I want to hear this from you, Marube. Since 1902, when the first dairy cooperative society was launched or was registered here in Kenya, to 1946, when Africans were finally allowed to participate in the cooperative movement, to sessional number 10 of 1965. When you look at the progress that this industry has made, what would you say has been one of the biggest turning points for this industry?
Thank you. Number one, as we progressed from, we didn't have the financial cooperatives. Financial cooperatives is a new development that emanated from the agricultural cooperatives. Now, we are proud to say that in the entire of Africa, we are being recognized even on the global arena, that Kenya has developed a very robust, very strong financial cooperatives called SACCOs. SACCOs were created when the economy in the 90s was very, very difficult. And even opening account in the commercial banks was extremely difficult. That we brought our people together so that SACCOs could provide access for our members to affordable financial services. The call upon which we have stood very firm, that cooperatives, the SACCOs that we have in this country, have continued to provide access to financial services, affordable financial services to our people. This is one of the greatest achievements that Kenya has really received recognition worldwide, and we are extremely very proud of. Number two, going forward, we are now reorganizing our cooperative sector so that the agricultural cooperatives, we are going to reorganize them into federations so that we can start doing value addition, so that we don't sell our coffee in the form of beans, but we want to process it so that we can add value into it, so that the farmers, the growers, the cooperators can be able to get a good price for their effort they are putting in agriculture. So really, the cotton industry is being revived, cooperatives along that side, so that we can be able to produce and give ingredients necessary for manufacturing, so that as Kenya moves into the middle income economy, cooperatives will be a significant contributor into it.
And definitely, I mean, you can't talk about the progress of this critical sector without first of all also highlighting, the challenges that he has faced in the past. And what would you say has been one of the most defining challenge of that the sector has faced in the last 100 years?
The biggest challenge we incurred is three. I say now this since the COVID-19 came and affected the entire world economy. That has affected us quite a great deal because some sectors have not fully recovered. We had a great impact in terms of people lost their jobs. The income that our members get went down. And when the economy is not performing, our savings is greatly impacted. Because then the people have to take priorities. What do you want to do? Do you want to save in the cooperative, or do you want to have food on the table and pay school fees? Everything has gone up. The cost of gas, when you go to a supermarket, every item has gone up for about, in the last 2 months, for about 15%. So we are saying that this world economic problems is also affecting us in the sense that the disposable income for our people is being impacted by inflation and the cost of living of other items. So we are seeing that some societies, we are having a bit of a challenge in terms of members not repaying their loans on time because they have lost the time, employment, and lost their jobs, or their sectors have been affected, their businesses have gone down. And number two, that we are also seeing that the cost of maintaining the livelihood is higher. So, but we are seeing that some sectors have been affected, while on general terms, the financial cooperatives, that is the SACCOs, has seen about a 10% growth in the last 3 years.
And the fact of the matter is, the cooperative movement, is composed of many sectors. You talked about the dairy industry, you talked about the transport industry, the financial sector. Which one would you say has been the most impacted by coronavirus?
The tourism sector, and the small and micro businesses. The people who are doing small and micro businesses within the major towns have been extremely impacted negatively, because people were not moving. We had closed down almost the economy. People were not doing businesses in town, in the cities. That sector has not fully recovered. The tourism industry was a bit supported by the local tourists, the foreign traveling was very much impacted. So the industry, and you know, when you are talking about tourism industry, the hotels, you know, some of them have not fully recovered.
Yeah.
And when the hotels are working, there's staff employed, there's supply of goods and services to the hotels which are being consumed, the transport, you know, the tour companies and the drivers and their families, all that was more affected than anybody else. But I think it will recover. We are very optimistic that it will be recovering. And also the entire sector, basically, we were affected, but we have learned lessons also out of it. We are doing more of online transactions using technology. We are inventing other ways of doing businesses than the traditional way. But so I could say that in spite of that impact that we got from coronavirus, the industry is very solid. It's solid in the sense that we have had a fairly stable political environment. You know, when the political environment is stable, the cooperatives will do very well. But if we are in an unstable environment, then everything else is interrupted. Because cooperatives is people. It's people-centered. It's people coming together and solving the problems they are incurring by themselves. It's the people solving the problems by themselves. We do not depend as cooperatives for government to do anything for us other than giving us an enabling environment, good regulations, good political environment, so that we can be able to do our own businesses. So really, as long as the political environment is stable, the rest of the things we will do because we join hands together. Remember, in cooperatives, we are non-aligned to any political party because we support the government of the day, because we want the government to provide the infrastructure and good policies that are facilitative in nature for our cooperatives for us to do business, to help ourselves. Cooperatives is about people solving the problems by themselves.
I understand that, because of the ongoing economic situation, not only here in Kenya, but around the world, of course, caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, some SACCOs are having challenges with remittances and, of course, registration and the recruitment of new members. Do you have an idea how mobilization has been impacted, financial mobilization?
Really, at the moment, the issue of non-remittance is restricted to the county governments, mainly county governments and some of the government universities who depend on remittances from the national government. The delays of county governments getting their remittances or their revenues in good time, and of course we see that the management of some of the counties is not very serious in supporting the employees of their county governments, their own staff, by remitting what they have deducted from their salaries into the SACCOs. That is one of the biggest challenges, and we are trying to...
So number one, you have a situation whereby some some counties, some institutions of higher learning, and even some employers, they are deducting members' contribution.
Yes.
But they fail to remit them. So what remedial measures have you put in place, or how are you addressing this? Because that is a breach of the insurance, the SACCOs and Regulations Act.
Yes, and the trust, really. So now, what the challenges that we have been having, especially in the national universities, the county governments, and some parastatals, is that we have entered into an agreement with the government to negotiate, and we are looking forward to see we are advocating for a situation whereby before the county governments have received money from the exchequer, that we be considered to have that money deducted from source before the money goes to the county government.
How much is outstanding that has not been remitted you?
I may not have the exact figure, but it's a colossal sum. It's a huge sum.
It is in the billions.
It's in billions. In Nairobi County is one of them now, which has entered into that list. Mombasa County, quite a number of county governments. Nairobi University and the other universities are already in that list. So we are trying to find out how possible can it be, so that from the exchequer, before any remittances is sent to the government, to the universities or to the county government, and that money would never reach us, whether we can be given priority, so that as they get their payment, the deductions for the cooperative societies or the SACCOs can also be remitted at that particular point.
Which county is worst affected?
I could say that we have delays for up to 3-4 months in several counties, almost all of them.
Almost all the counties.
Almost all of the counties, yes, have issues.
3 to 4 months of delays
have issues.
In unremitted
remittances, yes, or made the need of partial or full payment has not been met.
And when you talk to them, what do they attribute these non-remittance to? Because the money has been deducted.
Of course, they have excuses. Excuses are many that the national government has not paid them.
No, but they have remitted. I mean, they have deducted
They have
from
deducted,
members.
yes. So
what does that has to do with the national government allocations?
We have mischief. Let me say there's a lot of mischief because they are utilizing their staff members' money for their own expenditures, and which is illegal. Which is extremely illegal.
Yeah.
And
So have you taken any legal recourse for this?
Yes, we are putting now proper structures in place that we can be able to sue the people in that particular account who are personally involved in that area, so that we can be able to have the recoveries done on time.
But I mean, you see, when you look at the SACCOs Act, the commissioners for cooperatives, I mean, has the powers to sue counties or any employer that fails to remit deductions. Are you working with the Commissioner of Cooperatives to ensure this is dealt with?
Exactly. You know the powers to sue is in the office of the commissioner.
Yeah.
The commissioner is part of the government. So we realized that there was an issue. There was an issue of one arm of the government suing the other arm of government. So what we have done is to have a collaborative situation whereby we are negotiating with those other arms of government, so that we can have this thing resolved. And our commissioner at the moment is extremely committed. Is committed. Our PS is extremely committed. We have had quite a number of negotiations, and we are hoping that in the near future we'll be able to have a solution to solve these problems.
So you're saying that counties are some of the worst affected, and as well as public universities. I'll be coming back to you to find out which universities are these, and what measures have you put in place to ensure that members' deductions are remitted. Well, you're watching BizCheck. We are live from Broadcasting House. Remember, the Public Service Week has been ongoing in the last 4 days. It started on Monday. The culmination is happening today at KICC, if you like it, Kenyatta International Convention Center, where President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to close this important event. Our reporter Nancy Okware has been covering for us that event. She's now joining us at KICC to give us an update on what is happening and what time we're expecting the arrival of invited guests. Nancy Okware, if you can hear me, kindly bring us to speed.
Well, a very good morning to you, O'Brien Kimani. We are coming to you live from the Kenyatta International Convention Center right here in Nairobi County. This is where the country is marking the national day, that is the Public Service Day. It is a day that is set aside to celebrate the achievements that have been made in the public service sector, and of course looking at ways that the sector is supposed to be improved just to ensure that members of the public are able to get better services from those in charge of various offices. It is a day that is actually in the Africa Union calendar, and it is marked all over Africa. Right here in Kenya, it has been marked. It is being marked for actually 3 days. It started on the 21st of this month, and of course the culmination will be happening today under the theme celebrating public service transformation 10 years and beyond. Remember that it is coming at a time when President Uhuru Kenyatta is actually finishing his term as the President of the Republic of Kenya, that is for 10 years. And of course, this theme is just aimed at celebrating some of the achievements that have been made by the government, including matters, manufacturing, which is part of the Big Four agenda, affordable housing, and also the achievements that have been made in the health sector, given that the government has been constructing a number of hospitals just in a bid to ensure that members of the public are able to access primary health care services under the National Health Insurance Fund. We also expect that today some of the outstanding public servants are going to be awarded for their efforts in ensuring that they use innovative ways and in offering services to members of the public. And so far, right now as we speak, some of the guests that have arrived here include the Cabinet Secretary for Matters, Public Service and Gender, Professor Margaret Kobia, and we do expect that this function will be kicking off any minute from now. But remember that key to note is that the public servants are just here to ensure that they learn new ways of using innovations just to ensure that they offer better services to members of the public. Remember that we are in changing times where innovation is key. Remember that it was a time when Kenya was battling, and Kenya and the globe was battling the COVID-19 pandemic. Hence, the public servants that are gathered here will also be able to chart the way forward on how the country and the public service in general can come back stronger and back on its feet, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic and also during this period when the globe is facing and battling this pandemic. So that is what is expected here. Matters ensuring that members of the public get better services, and that is what will be taking place right here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center with President Uhuru Kenyatta, serving his, 10 years in office, just looking at the gains that have been made so far in public service in Kenya. So far, we do have a number of tents that have been set up here by various ministries and agencies that are able to showcase what they have done to members of the public in matters improving their services. We expect that the exhibition is also taking place where members of the public can actually visit a number of stands and get information on what is happening under various ministries. We also have the Huduma Mashinani that has been taking place here with members of the public able to come here and register for identification cards and also receive their, birth certificates, as well as check if they do have any unclaimed assets. So there's not much that is ongoing here, O'Brien Kimani, but as soon as the function kicks off officially, we will be bringing you that live from here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. But for now, it's back to you at the broadcasting house.
Nancy Okware, thank you very much indeed for joining us and, of course, giving us that update from Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Africa Public Service Week is happening, and the culmination of this important event is taking place today at the same venue where President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to close that event. We continue with the coverage of the cooperative movement here in Kenya, and of course as the world marks 100 years since the International Cooperative Day was launched. And of course we're also keeping an eye at Kasarani Stadium, where President Kenyatta is also expected to flag off this year's Safari Rally. There's going to be a three-day event of man and machine, and of course be strategically positioned to catch a glimpse of these machines and men. We are back in studio here, where we are in the company of Daniel Marube. He's the CEO of Cooperatives Alliance of Kenya, and also we have been joined by Nicholas Kamunye, who is a consultant of Cooperatives. Thank you very much indeed, Kamunye, for joining us. We were discussing the issue of non-remittance by employers. And we just discussed how counties, are failing the cooperative movement by, number one, deducting members' funds and failing to remit the same to their SACCOs or cooperative movements. How bad is the situation at the county level?
Yeah, the situation used to be worse than it is at the moment. Mm-hmm. But when we deliberately chose to work very closely with the PS in the Department of Cooperatives and the Commissioner, we have tried to reduce the amount. However, some counties...
So how much is outstanding now?
I may not have the exact figure right now.
How much was owed back then?
It used to be over 8 billion shillings.
8 billion shillings?
Yes, a lot of money. We reduced it to 4 billion. Mm-hmm. So the figure is around that amount. And county governments, indeed, we had an issue from Mombasa County. Nairobi County has come part of it at the moment.
Mm-hmm. It's never used to be.
It never used to be. Mm-hmm. So we are working. We are trying to find a method whereby we wanted to resolve this problem permanently. When we go to the national universities, Nairobi University, for example, mm-hmm. is the top of the list. Mm-hmm. Kenyatta University, Maseno University, name them, each at university. They are not on time. And most of them, they claim that there is delays from remittances from National Treasury. But then we want to find out in future, how can we be able to ensure that once an employee's salary has been deducted, because you are stealing basically from the employer, isn't it? Your employee, your staff. So we are putting mechanisms in place to empower the commissioner much more, so that we ensure nobody delays with the deductions for more than 1 month. Mm-hmm. Yes, so we are putting some serious mechanisms in place, mm-hmm. and where there is delay, then we need to make sure that before the exchequer remits money to that university, mm-hmm. we are able to deduct our money from source.
I want to hear this from Kamunye. As a consultant, and I'm sure you have interacted with this sector, for quite a long time. Yes. How do we safeguard members' remittances, from employers who fail to remit their deductions?
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that is required is sensitization. We can't get away from that. Sensitization of the employer that this is the livelihood of members.
Are we trying to sit here and argue that they do not know the importance of that?
They do know that, but probably they do not appreciate the extent to which it is affecting them, because these are members who are actually saving for purposes of retirement, for purposes of sustaining their livelihoods, putting food on the table, and if that is jeopardized, then you're basically affecting that person's livelihood. So that's the first thing, that there needs to be consultation with the different ministries, different counties. As Mr. Marube has said, there has been success. From around 8 billion, I'm sure that number today is much lower. So there are those counties which have actually found a way of actually making sure that they are remitting, despite the fact that they're having challenges also getting monies, especially from the national government. The other thing that we are also encouraging the SACCOs and basically the cooperatives to do is look at alternative ways of raising revenue. Now that means that you're bringing on board other members that are not necessarily relying on one single employer to actually do remittances. So that makes sure that the cooperative is able to sustain itself and also make sure that they have actually enough money to run their business, make a profit.
But how do you do that? When you bear in mind that almost 99.9% of Kenyans, they only have one single revenue stream.
Yes, but most people in Kenya are actually not formally employed. Quite a number of
majority.
people are in the informal sector.
Yeah.
And that is where we are encouraging the cooperatives to actually look into. It might be a bit of a tough situation. For example, if you're dealing with an MSME that has been affected by COVID, but the situation has not been in the past been as rosy when you think of delayed remittances. But there is actually light at the end of the tunnel, because today we have a lot of cooperatives that are actually receiving their remittances, and it boils down to negotiation. You simply need to sit down at the table with the people who are doing the remittances and making sure that is being done. Because
is that a workable solution?
We don't need to persuade somebody to remit, because you have actually removed the money from the pocket of your staff and you are utilizing it. But I'm trying to see a situation very soon where we are going to sue the finance, for example, with the university, taking the vice chancellor to court, because what they are doing is in an illegal act.
Because money has already been deducted from the employee.
Yes, you are just basically, did me not you use the word, you are stealing from your employee to use his money, which he has worked for.
Kamunyo, as a consultant in this sector, and also bearing in mind that there are legal provisions, there are laws to deal with this kind of a situation. How then do we ensure that not only do we employ the carrot on one end of the stick, but also we dangle the stick on the other end?
As Mr. Marube is saying, we can definitely take the option of suing, but as you might well know, the wheels of justice, they grind slow. So that might be a route that might end up working in the long run, but in the short term, members need their money. So that is where I was talking about the option of actually negotiation, that you need to then convince the person who is on the other end, who is actually still an employee themselves, that they need to see the human value of it. Because when you think about why a ministry or an employer will not be remitting, probably is because they're diverting the money to other needs, which they probably consider a bit more important. But if then you're able to convince them that this is also as important, then it's very useful. Now, one of the things that I know a lot of SACCOs have done is to be able to engage, especially the county officials, as members of their own SACCOs. Now, that then gives them impetus to say that if our own employees, we who are also remitting the remittances to this particular SACCO are going to get affected, then it is a good enough reason for them to actually do the remittances. So that has worked for some of them. And if you look especially at teacher-based SACCOs at the county level, most of them are actually banking the county staff. And chances are that if you get the numbers, they are the ones who have probably the lowest cases of non-remittance. Yes. Non-remittance.
You were talking about public learning institutions like universities, and you have talked about the numbers. You talked about Nairobi University, Kenyatta University, and Northeast are well-established learning institutions. What is the challenge here?
As I said earlier, the figures were huge. We have negotiated. They have continued to reduce that number gradually. We are trying to see a scenario where we have remittances made promptly. And this is by involving the Commission of Cooperatives very strongly to use his mandate, the powers given to him, and we have promised as CK that we will continue to shame those institutions who are not remitting, and where the commissioner will feel that there is a bit of delay, we will be able to sue them. We will be able to sue them because the employees are not supposed to you cannot use your employer's money to finance your institution. Yeah, so with that we will be able to protect our members in that sector. Yeah, but the figures,
the numbers
are going down.
You see, we should not even be talking about the numbers coming down because they should not be there in the first place.
Yes.
So that is encouraging illegality and lawlessness, and it must be called out and it must be dealt with harshly. So from your standpoint, and I know the Cooperative Act is very clear, on what happens if an employer fails to remit a member's deductions. So how comes, in your own understanding, why do you think the Commissioner for Cooperatives, seems to be too soft on members who have failed to remit members' deductions?
I would not say he has been too soft. Currently, we have the Cooperative Societies Act undergoing review. There was quite a bit of outcry, especially from cooperatives, about that issue of non-remittance, and it's something which is actually being addressed in the new regulation that is actually in Parliament at the moment. We also have the regulator for deposit-taking circles, SASRA, which is actually coming up with several guidelines on how then they deal with employers on the same. So it might be something which might have taken a bit of time, but very soon it's actually working out. Also, I'd say to their disadvantage, when we went into devolution, the problem of non-remittance was exacerbated. So that is something which probably has come in at the tail end. The last couple of years has increased. Also, as we see government having strain in terms of remitting money to the county governments, that has contributed to it. As I said earlier on, the wheels of justice grind slowly, and maybe that has been one of the issues. But I think from what I am aware of, the Office of the Commissioner has actually been acting on it, has been sensitizing the different employers on the same. But we do hope that with the new regulation, that will actually now come to fruition. Yes.
I know the new bill that you're talking about, is currently before Parliament. Is yet to be passed into law. Now you have to wait for the next Parliament. You don't know how long it's going to take before that new bill becomes law. But in the meanwhile, you're of the opinion that negotiations should be the way out.
It should be the way out, because today, if you say you're going to sue an employer, the reality of the matter is, where will they get the money today? So best thing is negotiate with them, even as you explore other options.
But this is a case of non-remittance.
Yes.
Yet deductions has been made.
Yes.
It is not a question of an employer saying, look, we are willing to remit, but we don't have money. This is different.
Yeah. I agree with you. I hear you, Kimani. The situation as it is, some of the universities at some point did not even have any money to pay to operate. But what we are saying here is that in terms of priorities, we could want those who are in arrears, whatever money they get, to give us priority. Some of them have given a commitment and a plan, a repayment plan on how they wanted to clear that outstanding. And we are in agreement. We have agreed with them that if you have given us a plan, stick to it. As you pay the current one, continue paying the whatever is in arrears. So those, some of the university, Nairobi University, I know they paid the SACCO quite a substantive amount in the recent past, and they are moving forward in that direction. So I think the commitment that and the desire of our new commissioner towards this end to ensure that in the next 2 years we have nothing like non-remittance in place, and we are working very, very, very closely to that office to ensure that indeed this story should not be with us in the next 2 years also.
In the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of cooperative movements are now embracing the use of ITC in many aspects of in many facets of their operations. But this has come with the challenge of fraud, scammers and online hackers and all these. How bad is the situation? Because I know you're a consultant.
The situation was bad at some point, especially
Which point?
Let's say a couple of years back, before many cooperatives understood the issue of having regular system audits. Today, the regulator of deposit taking circles has mandated, yes, SASRA, has mandated that on an annual basis, that every cooperative needs to do a system audit. That was not before. Actually, this came about 2 years ago. That's when they set out those regulations. Today, it's mandatory for them to do it at least once a year. And before that, we'd have quite a number of cases where we would hear that cooperatives have lost money, especially at the point at which they were embracing mobile technology.
Are they still losing money?
Probably in pockets. We have a few of them probably might be losing, but not to the extent at which we were doing 3 years ago.
But let me ask you this. I mean, look, the banking industry in Kenya is one of the most developed, on the continent, and one of the most robust. But they're losing billions through online systems. Yet they have superior systems, they have superior networks, they have more advanced employees who can detect such cases. What about SACCOs that are still learning the ropes of firewalling their systems?
Now, when you compare a commercial bank and a SACCO, you'd find that the commercial bank has more points of interface with the customer and the outside world compared with the SACCO. Today, most SACCOs have simply started with the mobile technology. There are those who are using ATM technology through a commercial bank. Few of them have gotten into agency banking, so their point of interface is very limited. So that is why you'll probably find that the instances where they're losing money are not as many. However, what I've seen in the recent past, we have seen the regulator SASRA doing programs, and I think I've also seen Mr. Marube through the CAK doing programs that is bringing on board ICT practitioners who will simply help them appreciate the need for network security, their own system security, and also getting on board more professional staff that are trained on issues to do with security. We also do quite a bit of training around the same thing, where we've partnered with SACCOs to make sure that at the point at which, for example, they're onboarding a vendor, whether it is for their core banking system, mobile technology, the ATM, or even the agency banking, that they go through a rigorous process. Now, those who adopted core banking systems in the past probably were not as keen on the process. But when you look at, for example, the top 5 SACCOs, today their processes are very streamlined. They are going through the process of making sure that they have a project manager that is properly qualified. The checks that are needed are actually done before they go live. So I would say that has actually helped in stemming the tide of loss of money. I will not say that they're not losing money, but it is not at the rate at which they were losing some years back. About last between 5 and 3 years, there was quite a bit of a shift where we saw SACCOs changing over their core banking systems, and there wasn't too much rigorous checking on who the vendors are. In the process, something was lost, and some of the vendors got compromised. And today we are seeing, I think, even about 2-3 weeks ago, SASRA actually got SACCOs together to tell them about the minimum requirements for onboarding vendors and also how to deploy core banking systems. So the SASRA has already taken the forefront in making sure that this is actually being actioned. So our hope and our prayer is that going forward that we'll not see too many cases, even as they're expanding their touch points with customers through technology, that will be mitigated.
Yeah, but you see, and this is why I want to hear from Marube. I mean, yes, the interface between the customer and SACCOs, at this point is very limited. But it's not going to be limited forever. SACCOs are rolling more products. They're encouraging more diversification in terms of IT and all of these. And so, how are you upscaling? The capacity of your members to ensure that they are ready to embrace technology and they do so in a secure manner?
Thank you. We are in a transformation. Cooperatives and SACCOs will never be left behind because the entire world is moving to the digital world. We are moving to a digital world. We are moving in that direction. Number one is continuous training and information to both the staff members and the users themselves. You come to find out that most of these risks emanate from the carelessness of the user himself. People going to the ATM, and I don't know what happens when somebody's at the ATM. They say, looking at the watchman neighborhood, say, please come, help me. This is my number. How can I use it? So the negligence of the users contributes a great deal towards the fraud. All right, facilitates the fraud.
Yeah.
Number two, we are seeing that we are in a digital era. We are transforming ourselves. So we are preparing ourselves in terms of risk mitigations from the time we onboard the customer, from the manner in which this is going to transact with and interfacing with our systems. So we cannot do without it. But we are putting mechanisms in place to ensure that people are very well informed on how to keep your PIN, your card, how you are using your mobile phone to do the transactions, so that you can start minimizing fraud cases. Number two, we want to start having platforms which are shared. CK has been given a mandate, for example, that we are bringing in a core banking and digital platform to be shared by smaller and medium cooperatives who cannot be able to afford a more robust system by themselves, but we can be able to share this platform, which is secure, and where we could be able to have more technologies, more trained people to take care about the risks around that area, so that we are able to detect the risks or the attacks earlier and be able to prevent it. So as a movement, we are investing more towards education, towards very viable and strong digital platforms which have been tested and proven.
So this is akin to what we have in the banking industry, what we call the core banking system.
Yes.
That is what you're trying to develop.
Yes, we are.
And so how do you develop a system that suits big players? And big players, I'm talking about SACCOs like Harambee SACCO, Afia SACCO, Hazina, and all these. And at the same time, it is also suits small players, at the county level, at the constituency level.
A shared platform is an open platform. You look at an individual, what is it, the transactions you are doing, all right? It doesn't matter the size of the society. You are saving, borrowing, repaying your loan, how the society has been able to get your transaction records is the same thing. So what differs is the size, is the number of members that you have.
So you're coming up with a system that can be customized,
yes,
to suit a SACCO's need.
It has been built to meet the needs of the SACCOs.
I also want to hear from you. I mean, look, when we talk about fraud, when we talk about mismanagement, I mean, it can happen at two fronts. One of them, it can be internal. The other part can also be external. And Marube has just explained what they are doing, to help detect external fraud. But how are they dealing with internal fraud, which is perpetuated by employees of a certain SACCO?
Two things. One is how you onboard your staff, making sure that the people that you onboard are people who are trustworthy and competent. Second thing is just constant training.
How do you ensure people are trustworthy?
Rigorous process of how you recruit. Let me give an example. If today you go to any of the corporate organizations, say a commercial bank, they have checks in terms of how you actually onboard people. First of all, publicly advertise it such that people who are within the organization are not bringing in their own relatives to be onboarded. So that's the first thing. Secondly, go through event verification. Confirm that people's degrees are are correct. Make sure that these people, their referees, are actually genuine. Give them a probation period. Once they've proven themselves, then you fully onboard them. Today, I'm seeing many more organizations signing confidentiality agreements with the employees, that in the event that you leak out anything that you're not meant to, then you're terminated or you're released. The second thing is just constant training of people. The other thing I'd say would be just the controls that you have in place. Today, if you look at most SACCOs, deposit-taking SACCOs, one of the employees that has been recommended and is mandatory is the internal auditor. That is key. Other than the CEO and the internal auditor, nobody else has actually been recommended for employment in the regulations for the SACCO, for the deposit-taking SACCOs. So meaning that there's a control that is being put in place. The role of the internal auditor is to make sure that the controls are in place and that they're effective. So that will be something that can actually work out for them.
And it's going to deal with the cases of internal fraud.
Internal,
yes,
also, what we're saying is that, for example, the processes, there's a maker, checker, and approval. And each person is given limits through which, to what extent can you initiate a process.
Very well. Because we need to take a short break before we continue with this conversation, I want you to hold your thoughts, and then we'll come back with the issues of how to bring professionalism in the management of cooperatives in this country as we head to the 2nd of July, where the world is expected to celebrate the International Cooperative Movement Day. We are doing it here in Nairobi. Remember, you're watching this conversation coming to you live from Broadcasting House. Stay tuned.
She must have known this before we did, and went to take care of it.
I'm a princess of Green Hill. I'm not afraid of you. You're the one who betrayed us. You can't handle a little criticism?
You! The J-Dragon fan.
But that was the weapon which, 70,000 years ago, resulted in the scattering of Master Mar's soul.
Indeed.
70,000 years, so long ago.
Nikishuka chini, alikuwa chini kwa garini mwangu akiningojea. Na amenambia maneno chungu nzima.
Ngoja, Kita liko hapa. Liko wapi?
Lakini hapa ndani hapa kaka.
Mimi na wewe tukapa kila siku, wala kugusana tugusana, wala usongeleana tusongeleane.
Msichana ajitambulisha mimi kwangu kwa yeye ni girlfriend wa bad.
Dingo, but that's obvious.
Obvious?
As the world gears up for the World Athletics Championships and Commonwealth Games, Athletics Kenya holds trials to get the nation's representatives at these global events this Friday and Saturday. Watch the trials live on KBC Channel 1 this Friday and Saturday. KBC, your true sports partner.
The global maritime industry has undergone tremendous challenges in the last 24 months. From the COVID-19 pandemic to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, this industry is being tested. But will it withstand the test of time?
Shipping is resilient, and therefore it will rebound. The impact will be felt, but the season will end.
This week on Inside Garment, we are talking to the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Maritime and Shipping, Ambassador Nancy Karegedo, and we are asking ourselves, What is the way forward for the maritime industry here in Kenya and beyond? Watch the conversation right here on KBC Channel 1. Welcome back. You're watching BizCheck live from Broadcasting House. And of course, our conversation this morning, we are looking at the cooperative movement here in Kenya as the world celebrates 100 years of the cooperative or the International Cooperative Day, which is going to take place on the 2nd of July. Where is it taking place here in Nairobi? I mean, here in Kenya?
We'll be at KICC.
You'll be at Kenya International Convention Center.
Yeah, we'll be having our procession at 8 o'clock from KBCU.
And KPCU.
Yes, and walking all the way to KICC, and that's where we are going to have a major celebrations together with exhibitions.
That is the national celebrations, eh?
Yes.
Are you also going to have county celebrations or anything like that?
Yes, every county will have its own celebration on the same day. Mombasa, they will be having theirs, every Nyeri and all other counties. But for nationally, we will be at KICC, and we are having also other counties represented and coming to exhibit, to showcase the achievements, the activities they are doing.
What are your members going to do on that day, and how are we supposed to be organized as citizenry?
The cooperatives, each cooperative will organize their team, their members. We will all gather at KBCU and then march all the way to KICC. At KICC, we have several of our cooperatives showcasing, exhibiting their products and services that they offer. And also at that particular point, we shall have entertainments, and we will have the main addresses from the leaders addressing the leadership and to tell us how far we have come from and where we're heading. So we welcome people, we welcome cooperators and non-cooperators to come and hear really the good stories and testimonies of how cooperatives has changed the lives of individual people and our communities. Yes.
I want to hear these from Kamonye. When you look at the last 100 years of the cooperative movement, here in Kenya, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing this sector now?
I'd say it's growth. And let me explain why I say growth. We have competition from quite a number of different sectors. With the advent of technology, we've seen that younger people today are able to actually access credit very easily from their phones. They don't need to have a bank account. They don't need to be a member of a SACCO. Again, with the young people today, we are seeing that they want to live a fast life where they may not have the patience developed to save, borrow, repay. And repeat the process again. So that for me would be one of the bigger issues, because as you look at most cooperatives, especially the rural-based ones, they tend to have an aging population, and we need to have growth from the young people. Majority of Kenyans today are actually below 35. And those who especially are below 25 are not very quick to embrace the issue of cooperation among other people to be able to then join a cooperative. So I think for me that would be a bigger headache that cooperatives would struggle with. Already we have seen some SACCOs that have an aging population, and they're struggling to actually replenish.
Which sector is most affected?
I would say the agricultural sector.
The agricultural sector.
Agricultural sector.
And does it have to do with the fact that, you know, the average age of a Kenyan farmer is above 60 years?
It is definitely a contribution. Today, the allure of quick, fast money is actually attracting young people to say, I would rather join a Ponzi scheme as opposed to join a SACCO where their fathers have been in. that have taken them so many years to actually develop the habit. And also something which has affected them. For example, if you go to the tea sector, you'll find that the people who own the tea bushes are actually the old people.
The parents.
Yes, so the younger people will struggle to find their space in that particular area. But the encouragement I think I've seen a lot of industry players having is that they are developing products for young people. They're creating new ways of engaging with them. For example, allowing them to access their savings, or to save, or to borrow, or even to just be onboarded using technology platforms. And maybe that is why we are seeing many cooperatives today actually go in the digital way. That could be a challenge. The other thing probably I would say might be a challenge within this particular sector would be, can I say, just expanding a bit further to offer other non-financial services. Today, the reason why you might go to one, say, commercial bank and deal with them on everything is because they're a one-stop shop. Cooperatives, especially SACCOs, are savings and credit. But if today that same cooperative is able to offer, for example, insurance services, is able to offer something else, then it will create more allure to the young people and also other people to simply join.
And become more attractive.
Become more attractive.
You know, I'll be coming back to Marube because I want to hear from you, because what actually Nicholas is raising here is a big challenge that, you know, the SACCOs are facing. But this is what you'd call a good problem. And a good problem is that you have a solution. So I'll be coming back to hear from you. How are you dealing with that? But now we want to go to the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Africa Public Service Week is currently underway. And we have the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Margaret Kobe, Professor, now on the podium. Let's listen in.
Chief guests, allow that to happen. Honorable Oparanya, please do come upstage.
Our chief guests, the PSS who are here, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I wasn't meant to speak anything, and I have come here in my personal capacity. I have not come here to represent the Council of Governors. I was expecting my chairman to be here, but unfortunately he's not here. But since I was part of those resolutions that we passed, the 17 resolutions, that time I was the chairman of the Council of Governors. So we committed ourselves as Council of Governors to make sure that we promote performance at the county level. Unfortunately, Chief Guest, being head of civil service, as councils at the Council of Governors level, we have got very little support from the national government. As you are aware, capacity building is the responsibility of the national government. That relationship has been lacking. But I know we started performance contracting the days I was Minister for Planning, when the late Mike Baki was the president. And that's why I decided to come here to share the experiences that you have had all along. But as head of civil service, I think it is important we encourage all counties to embrace performance contracting if we have to grow together as a country. As we move to the next government, I'm hopeful that the next government will also embrace performance contracting and also make sure that counties are also in the system, so that we improve on productivity. The problems that we have had, because when I came here, the Salaries Remuneration Commission chair was on the stage. The problem we have had at the county level is that we inherited a lot of staff from the local authorities who had a very different salary structure compared to the salary structure that is being recommended by SRC. And then SRC also came up with their own salary structure. So we find we have 3 salary structures parallel. To harmonize this, it has taken 10 years. We have not harmonized. I don't know if it will take another 20 years to achieve this. So these are the areas that you need to help the counties. And it has been very difficult for the counties to meet this requirement of 35% of the total budget to go to salaries. You find that most of them are way over that because of what we inherited from the local authorities. So as a head of civil service, this is a challenge to you, and you need to have the Council of Governors together so that this issue is resolved. Otherwise, I'm very grateful to be here and also to listen to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor. I think it's very valuable to have your comments because the majority of our public servants are actually in the counties. So thank you very much for your comments. Our chief guest, allow me just to make a few comments. First, by appreciating you. When we are planning this event in the ministry, all the PSs and PS Kimani leading us, one thing we said very clearly, we really wanted the head of public service to be with us. Because today's celebration, which is being celebrated across Africa, it really matters. But not only does it matter, but it's also the last celebration during Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency's administration. So it matters for us to be here to reflect and actually celebrate all the gains that he had done. And for me, the hand of public service is very